Part I. The basic strategy of persuasion. How to write a winning headline that no one has ever written before. 1. Mass desire, the force that makes advertising work, and how to focus it onto your product. Let's get right down to the heart of the matter. The power, the force, the overwhelming urge to own that makes advertising work, comes from the market itself, and not from the copy. Copy cannot create desire for a product. It can only take the hopes, dreams, fears and desires that already exist in the hearts of millions of people, and focus those already existing desires onto a particular product. This is the copywriter's task, not to create this mass desire but to channel and direct it. Actually, it would be impossible for any one advertiser to spend enough money to actually create this mass desire. He can only exploit it. And he dies when he tries to run against it. This has been shown time and time again in the automotive field, for example. In 1948, in order to display their rising standard of living, the American public decided they wanted a longer, lower, wider car. Chrysler chose to buck the trend, and offered a fine, functional car with more head, leg and shoulder room on the inside but shorter and squatter on the outside. A multi-million-dollar campaign was prepared by one of the most creative agencies in America. But the results against the tide of mass desire were catastrophic. Note, don't work against the tide of mass desire. In 1954, cars had become universally long, and drivers were appraising each other's car in terms of horsepower. Here was the rise to dominance of a vast new public demand. The twin-H Hudson Hornet, the twin-exhaust Cadillac, the Chrysler 300 all in turn exploited this trend, and rode it to gain millions of dollars in extra sales. The Ford company decided to play it down, and devoted millions of advertising dollars to sell safety. Again, the advertising ran into a wall of disinterest, results were non-existent, and the next year Ford produced, and advertised, the highest horsepower engines in their history. But perhaps the most painful proof was the Edsel. Here was a good car, backed by a deluge of fine advertising, that died trying to fight the overwhelming switch in demand to a cheap, simple, inexpensive-to-run compact car. Let me repeat. Dash this mass desire must already be there. Dash it must already exist. Dash you cannot create it. And you cannot fight it. But you can and must direct it, channel it, focus it onto your particular product. What is this mass desire and how is it created? We can define this mass desire quite simply. It is the public spread of a private want. Advertising is a business of statistics. We deal with percentages of population. We address our ads to individuals, and yet the success of our advertising depends on thousands, or even millions, of these individuals sharing the same response to these ads, the response of wanting our product enough to pay us the price we ask for it. Before these individuals can share this buying response, they must first share the desire upon which our ad is based. Privately, each of them wants the same thing. Publicly, there are enough of them to repay us the cost of advertising, manufacturing and selling, plus a profit. It is the moment when a private desire is shared by a statistically significant number of people, large enough to profitably repay selling these people, that a market is born. This market may consist of a desire shared by only a few thousand people, such as the urge to own fine antiques. Or it may be shared by tens of millions, as the desire to lose weight. But it is there, demanding to be satisfied, waiting only for the information that will direct it onto a particular product. Since these mass desires are shared by millions of people, they take years to develop, and they are created by social, economic and technological forces far greater than advertising itself can command. It is this fact, when used correctly, that gives advertising its enormous potential for profit. By simply directing this gigantic, already existing mass desire rather than being required to create it, advertising thus commands an economic force hundreds of times more powerful than the mere number of dollars that the advertiser can spend on it. This is the amplification effect of successful advertising, the reason that $1 spent on such advertising can create $50 or even $100 in sales. But this amplification effect takes place only when advertising exploits already existing desire. When it tries to create this desire, it is no longer advertising but education. And, as education, it can produce at best only $1 in sales for every dollar spent on advertising. No single advertiser can afford to educate the American public. He must rely on forces far greater than any advertising budget to build this mass desire. And then he can make those forces work for him by directing that desire onto his particular product. What are these nationwide forces that create this mass desire? There are many of them. But they fall into two general categories, each presenting its distinct problem to the copywriter. Here are these two categories, with a few specific examples of each. 1. Permanent forces: mass instinct, the desire of women to be attractive, or men to be virile, or men and women both to keep their health. In this case, the instinct never fades, the desire never changes. To see some of these techniques I have never seen discussed in any other article or book on copywriting, and I think I've read most of them. Copywriter's problem here is not to pick out the trend that is there for everyone to see. His job is to distinguish his product from the others that were there before it, to create a fresh appeal, to build a stronger believability, to shift desire from the fulfillment offered by one product to that offered by another. How this is done, we shall see in a moment. A mass technological problem: bad television reception, or current automobile mufflers, or the time it takes for aspirin to bring relief. Until the problem is finally solved, the customers will buy and try again. And here the copywriter has the same problem, to offer the same claim of relief as his competitors, but offer it in a new way. 2. The forces of change: the beginning, the fulfillment, and the reversal of a trend style, the sudden mass decision to show off a pay raise by installing a swimming pool in the backyard, instead of buying a bigger car. The horsepower appeal of the 50s, and its sudden subordination to gas economy. Here the copywriter is dealing with the straws in the wind that may indicate a hurricane. Here he needs sensitivity, foresight, intuition. He must be able to see and catch the rising tide when it's almost imperceptible sense which of the several appeals that are built into his product he should stress at any particular moment, and when to shift to another, and, always, how to be there first. Mass education, the school primer and the movie screen. The tastes and appearances of society, women, television stars, presidential candidates, trickling down to every hamlet in America. Group pressure, backyard gossip, community product pioneers. And equally important, the sum total of all advertising in its unconscious, unplanned and overall effect of multiplying people's dreams and desires, and thus raising their standard of living. Here again the problem is timing. When does the shift become statistically significant? When do enough people make the change? When should the automotive powerhouse, for example, change its image to become the common man's gas saver? The copywriter is faced with a society containing dozens, even hundreds of these already existing mass desires. His first job therefore is to detect them, inventory them, chart their force and direction. This is a study that will occupy part of every working day for the rest of his life. His second job is to harness his products onto their backs. He does this in this way: how to channel mass desire onto your particular product. The copywriter in his work uses three tools: his own knowledge of people's hopes, dreams, desires and emotions, his client's product, and the advertising message, which connects the two. The copywriter performs his work in 3 stages. In general, they go something like this. 1. Choose the most powerful desire that can possibly be applied to your product. Every mass desire has 3 vital dimensions. The first is urgency, intensity, degree of demand to be satisfied. For example, constant arthritic pains compared to a minor headache. The second dimension is staying power, degree of repetition, the inability to become satiated. For example, raw hunger compared to a craving for gourmet foods. And the third dimension is scope, the number of people who share this desire. For example, the number of men willing to pay $10 for an automotive accessory that saves gas, as compared to those willing to pay the same price for one that merely prevents future repair bills. Every product appeals to 2, 3 or 4 of these mass desires. But only one can predominate, only one can reach out through your headline to your customer. Only one is the key that unlocks the maximum economic power at the particular time your advertisement is published. Your choice among these alternate desires is the most important step you will take in writing your ad. If it is wrong, nothing else that you do in the ad will matter. This choice is embodied in your headline. It is for this reason that we spend so many chapters on headlines later on. To sum up the first stage then, you try to choose the mass desire that gives you the most power in all 3 dimensions. You try to tap a single overwhelming desire existing today in the hearts and minds of millions of people who are actively seeking to satisfy it at this very moment. 2. Acknowledge that desire, reinforce it, and/or offer the means to satisfy it in a single statement in the headline of your ad. This headline is the bridge between your prospect and your product. It touches your prospect at the point of awareness that he has arrived at today. If he is aware of your product and realizes that it can satisfy his desire, your headline starts with your product. If he is not aware of your product, but only of the desire itself, your headline starts with the desire. And, if he is not yet aware of what he really seeks, but is concerned only with a general problem, your headline starts with that problem and crystallizes it into a specific need. In any case, your headline, though it may never mention your product, is the first vital step in recognizing this mass desire, justifying and intensifying it, and directing its solution along one specific path. 3. And then you take the series of performances that are built into your product, what your product does, and you show your prospect how these product performances inevitably satisfy that desire. Here's how: the analysis of your product, what it is and what it does. In reality, every product you are given to sell is actually 2 products. One of them is the physical product, the steel, glass, paper or tobacco that the manufacturer has shaped into a particular pattern, of which he is justly proud. The other is the functional product, the product in action, the series of benefits that your product performs for your consumer, and on the basis of which he buys your product. The physical product does not sell. People do not buy the steel in a car, the glass in a vase, the tobacco in a cigarette, or the paper in a book. The physical part of your product is of value only because it enables your product to do things for people. The important part of your product is what it does. The rest, the steel skeleton, the chrome or metal case that you actually deliver to your customer, is only your excuse for charging them your price. What they are really paying you for is what the product will do. No physical part of your product can ever become a headline. No one will buy the size of your client's plant, the weight of your client's steel, the care of your client's construction. All these facts can only be used, later on, to document and reinforce the primary performance that you promise your reader in your headline, in the following ways: by justifying your price. This is the common sense theory, that the longer the car, the more tubes in the television set, the more stitches per inch in the suit, then the greater the number of dollars your product can command, if that product first delivers the performance that your prospect demands. By documenting the quality of your performance. Tell your prospect the weight of steel in your car's door, and he's more likely to believe that your car will protect his life if he should have an accident on the highway. Tell your prospect the number of times your plant removes the impurities in your face cream, and she's more likely to believe that your cream will remove the impurities in her skin. By assuring your prospect that that performance will continue throughout the years. Ceramic mufflers mean no repair bills for the life of your car. Chemically protected paper means you can hand your prize books down to your children. Quick frozen food means you can retain taste and vitamins for months after your purchase. By sharpening the reader's mental picture of that performance. The Rolls-Royce must give you perfect riding silence, because every metal part of the chassis is shielded from every other metal part by a protective coat of rubber. Helena Rubinstein's new face cream must make your skin look younger, because it contains the placenta of living animals. And, above all, by giving your product's claim of performance a fresh new basis for believability. This is the most important use of the physical product in fields where a new firm or product is attempting to invade an established mass instinct field. Others have made the same claim before. Your product, in order to pull sales away from them, must introduce a new mechanism that performs the claim, or a new quality that assures its performance, or a new freedom from old limitations that improves the performance. This is the point of difference often conceived by the copywriter and built by the manufacturer into the product at his recommendation. We shall discuss this point of difference quite thoroughly in the next few chapters. So much for the physical product. It is always subordinated to the functional product, the product in action, what the product does. It is the performance of your product, satisfying the mass desire of your market, that provides the selling power of your ad. Your first task, then, in studying your product, is to list the number of different performances it contains, to group these performances against the mass desires that each of them satisfies, and then, to feature the one performance that will harness their greatest sales power onto your product at that particular time. Take the automobile, for example. Every automobile offers its prospective owner several different and distinct sets of performances. It offers him transportation, the ability to carry himself, his family, his luggage, and perhaps in the case of station wagons his pets and his furniture from place to place. It offers him dependability, the freedom from breakdown, stalling, poor performance, repair bills, embarrassment and inconvenience. It offers him economy, inexpensive transportation, savings in both gas and oil, freedom from repair bills, seen this time from the point of view of the pocketbook, durability, high trade-in value, low insurance cost. It offers him power, number of horses at his command, takeoff at the lights, acceleration on hills and in traffic, top speed, even if he never uses it, all adding up to a feeling of dominance on the highway. It offers him recognition, admiration, status, subtle and accepted bragging, envy, the feeling of having arrived, the ohs and ahs of his neighbors, the first ride, the very smell of a new car. It offers him value, the number of feet of steel he can command for the price, high trade-in value over the years, the fact that the car can last for 100,000 miles, even if he can afford to trade it in every year. It offers him novelty, power steering 5 years ago, electric door locks today, 3-tone paint jobs yesterday, iridescent paints now, the thrill of being the leader, the pace-setter, the proven pioneer, and many more. Some of them hidden, never admitted, discovered only recently by motivation research. Dozens of different performances, built into the same product, each of them reaching out and tapping a different desire, a distinct public. And yet your ad can feature only one of these performances, can effectively tap only one mass desire at a time. Your headline is limited by physical space. You have only one glance of the reader's eye to stop him. He is preoccupied. He is not looking for your product or your message. The span of his attention will submit only one thought to penetrate his indifference during that glance. If your first thought holds him, he will read the second. If the second holds him, he will read the third. And if the third thought holds him, he will probably read through your ad. Every product gives you dozens of keys, but only one will fit the lock. Your job is to find that one dominant performance, squeeze every drop of power out of it in your presentation, and then convince your reader that that performance and that satisfaction can come only from your product. The next 4 chapters will show you how to locate that one dominant performance, and how to fashion it into your headline. Once you have written that headline, then every other performance contained in your product simply reinforces and documents that main appeal, in exactly the same way as the physical product facts listed above.